What does it mean when somebody says, think outside the box? This is the very important statement which I think if you can get to understand, it can change your life forever, like it has been doing to me. So to begin, I think I would like to discuss with you on how I think I can categorize the type of thinking. And I think there are three main ways which I can categorize ways of thinking. The first category, I would refer to it as analytical thinking. I will explain about it shortly. And the second and the third, they are kind of interlooped with each other. I would call the second the space thinking, and then the third one, I would call it the creative thinking. So I think you must have heard analytical and creative, but for the space one, it's kind of new. This is my own category. Now I will explain with it. I will explain about it in a few minutes. So let's go back to the first type of thinking. The first type of thinking, analytical thinking, as the word says itself, is how your brain can get to analyze, and most of the time it only analyzes the solution and the outcome in order to choose the most convenient solution, not necessarily the best solution. So for example, I posed this question in one of the WhatsApp groups, and one of my friends, Mr. Venance Mbeleni, he gave me an example. He said, for example, if you have a car breakdown, let's say the battery of your car is dead, so what do? And this is one of the scenarios where your thinking will be analytical. So you'll have to think yourself, do I have to call a mechanic, maybe from any nearby shop, so that he can bring me a battery and change it here? Should I call for help, maybe in the surrounding people, to help me push the car to any nearby shop? Should I call the insurance company? Should I do this or should I do that? So that is, you analyze the processes and the outcome, and then you end up choosing what you deem to be the most convenient solution at that time T. So that is analytical thinking. Let's go to the second. The second, I say this is, I would call it space thinking. Now, wait a minute. For the first one, the analytical thinking, I think this is what is connected to the intelligence of somebody. And you develop your creative thinking, you develop your analytical thinking through mind conditioning and development. For example, you might have seen that kind of a problem before, and you saw how somebody solved it before and the outcome. So this time you would only remember what he did and the outcome he got. If the outcome was positive, you are very likely to repeat the process he did. If the outcome was negative, then you will be forced to think of another solution. So this is how you develop the analytical thinking of your brain. So let's go back to number 2. For the space thinking is more connected to identity groups. And when I say identity groups, I mean something like this. When you're born, and I've observed this even from my own children, every newborn baby that has just come into the earth, they are mostly afraid of two things. Number 1 is the fear of loss of life. And number 2 is the fear of falling. So for the fear of loss of life, you can see anything which comes on his face. It could be a cloth, it could be anything. You can see he's scrambling, he's struggling to make sure that you get off whatever it is that is coming on his face. But also, if you hold him in such a position that he would feel he's falling down, you can see he's also struggling. I think those are the two things which any newborn child is so much afraid, but nothing more than that. But as they keep on growing, depending on the society they are growing in, they will start now to be conditioned. Don't touch this, don't do that, we don't do this, we do that, something like that. So I can give you another example. Another example is let's take about a prince, a son of a king. A son of a king does not need to be intelligent to know his rights and privileges. He just, the moment you tell him, you are the son of a king and you can demand this and get it, that's it. He doesn't need to be intelligent. And for your information, there has been so many princes and princes and princesses who have been very foolish, and they demanded even the lives of people, and they got it. Even from the Bible, I don't recall the exact story, but it seems there used to be a king, and he had a princess, and this princess, she made a very wonderful dance, and the king was happy, and he said, please, my daughter, name anything you want in this world and you can get it. And the daughter wanted the head of a prophet by that time, and because the king had already promised, they had to kill that prophet, and that was it. So my point here is that now this daughter has already known her perimeter. She has already known her power, her privileges, and she's using it respectively. So this is what I refer to as identity thinking. That what do you think is allowed within your area of locality? What do you think is possible? And actually these two questions are the main features of space thinking. That number one, what do you think is allowed? But number two, what do you think is possible within that area of locality? I can give you another example in the space thinking. So let's take an example of reading books. And I will tell you my own example. When it comes to reading books, I've faced so many people who not only discouraged me in reading books, but some even went further, that to start following behind and making sure that they attack me where I went wrong for reading books. I can give an example. So for example, there were some people who I read book about money, how to raise money, how to manage money, something like that. But at some point, I went through some tough situation financially. These people, they came to me and said, but you read about money, but why are you here in this situation? And at the end of the day, they come to say that, for us Africans, books are not ours. So if you're an African and they see you reading a book, they will say, no, you are wasting your time, because the lives in the book is different from the life you're living. You're not supposed to be reading a book. Just go out and do some work, something like that. But on the other hand, if they see a white man, for instance, reading a book, they will say, you see, a white man is rich, is superior, because he likes to read a book, the very same book. So this is another example of identity. Like, people identifies me as an African, and they know as Africans, we don't read books. And they also identify white man as a white man who read books. So they know he who's supposed to read is reading, and is supposed to benefit from the books, and you are the one who are not supposed to read. You are not supposed to read. So even when you read, they will come after you. They will find any other way to discourage you from making sure that you don't read. So this is what I'm talking about, the identity, that you are not allowed to read. And there are so many other ways that you can explain this. So that was only allowed. Like, what do you think is allowed within your identity group? But I said now, question number 2 is about what do you think is possible? So I can recall one of the quotes which was given by Mr. Carter Woodson. And Mr. Carter Woodson said, if you can determine what a man shall think, you don't have to concern yourself over what he will do. If you can manage to make this man an inferior, you don't have to compel him to seek an inferior status, because he will seek it himself. If you can manage to make this man an outcast, you don't have to compel him to go through the back door, because he will look for it himself. And if there is no back door, his own nature will demand it. So I come back here. So within every identity groups, and what I said in the group, I don't necessarily mean geographical. It could be about gender. It could be about nationality. It could be about a tribe. It could be about race. It could be about anything, but anything which connects people together and make these people share some values. So these groups normally, they provide some sort of a thinking for its own members. And if you can determine the types of thinking for some members, then you automatically limit what they think is possible within their groups. So I can also go another example, of course, again on race. I've always noticed that there are some problems which can happen in our country. For instance, in my country, Tanzania, there could be some problems, maybe technical problems, maybe let's say fixing the engine or something like that. Some people would automatically say that as an African, you cannot fix this engine. This is the job which a white man can do, only he can do. So they only give the possibility to a white man and predicting the impossibility to an African. And by doing this, it's easier to discourage many Africans who perhaps they should have had some intention to try something out. So by hearing this discussion and saying that this is not possible within our own identity group, then it's easy to discourage others and to make sure that they stay the same. There's this example which I heard from one of the stories by Mr. Leslie Brown. He said there used to be an experiment, and this experiment was conducted on monkeys, and somebody would put a banana on top of the room, and they would let one of them, any of the monkey, to go after the banana. But as soon as the monkey was close to pick up a banana from the roof, they would release a very hot and very harsh splash of water to attack this monkey. So this monkey would fall down, he's very hot, and then they would stop and maybe allow another monkey to go. So several times, several monkeys went there and they were attacked. At the end of the day, these monkeys started to stop each other from going over there. And they now got the new babies, several generations, but these new babies had nothing to do with the banana. They knew nothing about it. But every new baby who wanted to go there, he would be stopped by other members who had no even idea what happened in the first place. And perhaps nobody could even attack them anymore, but they had to create a new culture where you are not allowed to go there. But when you ask why, nobody has any answers. But that is how you assign the rules, you assign the possibility within the identity group. Now, why the box? I decided to come with a box here. So when somebody says you have to think outside of the box or think inside the box, what they literally mean is they refer to the space thinking. Space thinking, like I told you, it has two main features, which are represented by two main questions. What do you think is allowed within your group, your identity group? But number two, what do you think is possible within your identity group? Now, it is being referred as the box because, like I said, as a child, when you're born, you only have two fears: fear of losing life and fear of falling. But as you're growing up, the society starts now to condition your mind by giving you other sets of limitations. Like I said, this side could be reading books. They would say, we as Africans, we don't read books. And it's not that they don't understand the importance of reading books. They do understand. And if you ask anybody, why should somebody read the books, they will tell you the real reasons. But when it comes to you reading the books, they will say, no, but this is not for you. This is for somebody else. So that is one limitation which you have against yourself. Number two, it would be maybe, let's say, going for politics. They would say you cannot go for politics because you're not from this tribe. Maybe another side could be another limitations. You cannot fix maybe an aeroplane because it's only white men who can fix an aeroplane. You cannot go to the space because only the Chinese can go to space. So this is how you create walls of limitations, and at the end of the day, you only close yourself within the box. And this is how we come to define that now you're thinking inside the box, not because you're not intelligent. You can be very, very intelligent and still operating within the limitations and still operating within the box. The limitations, I mean the perceived limitations that, okay, I'm very bright, but this is the farthest I can go. I cannot go beyond this. I can give you also another very vivid example. So you might be in need of a job, say from one of the companies, say Microsoft, and you have been applying for jobs there. But one time, Mr. Bill Gates said, okay, I'm coming to Tanzania, so for example, and then he's there, and then you have a chance to meet him. Would you go and ask him maybe about the job? Or maybe not say about going and asking, maybe that could be too much abstract. Would you even think of emailing Bill Gates and say, Bill Gates, I sent an application to your job. Would you consider me for a position? Of course, most of the people will say, no, how can I email Bill Gates? I don't even think he will look at my email. And this is one of the perceived limitations that makes the box. So what does it mean when somebody says, now you've got to think outside the box? To think outside the box, it means to go beyond the perceived limitations. And why I say perceived limitations is because most of the time, the limitations that we create, that we think they should stop us from moving forward, sometimes they don't even have any connections to your progress. It could be true, you don't have any money. But is that really a reason why you should not be able to open up a business? Did you really seek out for any other possibilities? Most of the time, the limitations, they're not even, the perceived limitations, they don't even have any relationship to your progress. So, I like how Mr. Peter Lynch and Brian Tracy, they try to explain how should somebody think in order to get out of the box. And the way I can define this, I would say they idealize something to make something an ideal condition. And to make something ideal condition, it means you assume there are no any other limitations. Peter Lynch has this one way to put it. He likes to say that if you were able to do anything in this world, what could it be? So you assume, like, if I was ever powerful, if I had all the money in the world, what would I want to do? So that means you remove the wall of money, you remove the wall of inability and something like that, and then you imagine. And then once after you have got your answer, then you take one step backward. What's really stopping you from going in that direction? But also I like how Brian Tracy likes to put it, and I read it from one of his books, The Psychology of Selling. He said, if you had a magic wand, and if you shake it, you can have anything you have ever wanted, what would it be? And then after getting your answer, take one step backward and ask yourself for real, like, is there really no way you can ever do it, taking into consideration your circumstances? At the end of the day, you realize you could do it, maybe not with one way, but always there is another way which you can pass through and reach the one thing that you can ever think of or imagine. But you can never imagine beyond the space, beyond the world of possibilities that you can create yourself. So by concluding this topic, I will tell you once again, in order for you to think outside the box, it doesn't necessarily need you to be intelligent. We have so many intelligent people who created a lot of things, but still they died with their inventions and creative works inside of their rooms and in very poor conditions. Why? Because they still locked themselves in their boxes. They still had some walls which they said, I can never cross this wall. I have to stay within the box. So they think very critically, they think very intelligently, but within the box. You have got to go outside the box. And going outside the box includes thinking of new possibilities, thinking of new laws, like, okay, maybe this is what Africans do, but what if I were white? What would I have done? What if I was a Russian? Would I have wanted to go to space? So if I were Russian and I could have gone to space, what stops me now from going to space? Now, I am an African. This is how you think outside of the box. You think beyond the limitations. And by finishing, I would give you one kind of a joke talk. I would say, Another way you can think of outside of the box is to ask advice from somebody who does not pass through the same limitations as you. Because number one enemy of space thinking, or of thinking outside the box is experience. When you ask somebody who has had the same experience as you, is more likely to give you the solutions which you yourself could have given. So for example, taking advice from somebody who have had fights in his family, maybe he fights with his wife. This guy is more likely to give you advice which is more connected to what he's going through. But the best way is to take advice from somebody who doesn't even have an idea of what you're going through. So you can ask even a child. Go and ask somebody who has no idea about what you're going through, and just ask him, hey, I want to start a business, but I don't have any capital. What should I do now? And make sure this person doesn't have any idea about your situation, doesn't have any idea about your poor parents, doesn't have any idea if you have any sick relative, you doesn't have any idea about how many children you have in your house. Just ask him and let him say. And when he gives you those solutions, then take them into consideration and ask yourself what really can stop you from going in that direction. This is how you think outside the box. It's my hope that you have been able to comprehend what I've discussed here. I still welcome more comments. If you think you have something to add, if you think you have something to criticize, please welcome. I need to hear from you. What do you think about the statement "think outside the box"? More than that, please do not forget to share this video, and do not forget to subscribe in order to get more videos from our side. Thank you so much, and I wish you a wonderful time. Bye bye.